Welcome back to Keeping It Real with Grandma Jo in faith and in truth. And this week's topic is going to be deconstructing our faith. And who is Rhett and Link? So Rhett and Link are a couple of very caring and very intelligent young men who have a morning show and a very, very large following. And about a year ago, they came out with deconstructing their faith. There's a lot of information about that, so I'm going to link an interview with Alicia Childers and Shelby Abbott. So if you'd like a little bit more information about the deconstruction story, you can hit that link and it'll take you right to the interview for Alicia Childers. Deconstructing one's faith is basically taking a critical analysis of an original faith, pretty much tearing it apart, and then deciding if we're going to put it back together in bits and pieces or if we're going to trash the whole thing and just not have a faith at all. Why would someone do that? Sometimes it has to do with tragedy. So maybe we've prayed for healing and we got that healing and then they got sick again. Or maybe it's because we've listened to other people, a pastor that we've respected for a long time, and he tells us something that kind of shakes our truth of what we have always believed our whole life, and then we have doubt. Or we listen to a debate, or we listen to somebody with a lot of knowledge and we start doubting kind of what we were brought up to believe. And what we were brought up to believe, was it our faith, or was it our parents' faith, or was it our body of believers or our culture? Was it ever really ours to begin with? So these are all reasons why somebody would choose to deconstruct their faith. The concern is the outcome. So if we deconstruct our faith and it becomes foolishness, which happens in so many cases, God warns us about that. He said in 1 Corinthians 1, the message of the cross, which includes our faith, is foolishness to those who are perishing. But to those who are saved, it is the actual power of God. So is it no surprise why those in the world who would be deconstructing their faith and they come out with the outcome that it's foolishness, that God has not already told us that that's going to happen? Now, what about doubt? What about reevaluating everything that rocks our world? What about that tragedy that happens and it shakes the core truth of what we've known our whole life? Even the disciples had doubts. Even John the Baptist had doubts. Even they were confused when they had Christ walking with them. The difference is it isn't based on our feeling. It isn't based on the world's evaluation. It isn't based on what I think. Truth is based on Christ. He says, I am the way, the truth, and the life, and no one come to the Father but through me. Truth is the Word of God that's sharper than a two-edged sword, and it is unchangeable. It's a very weak analogy, but it's kind of like gravity. Somebody can say, I don't believe in gravity, and they can jump off a roof, and pretty soon they'll realize that gravity does exist. Well, faith and truth is like that. Whether the world believes it, or whether these people who deconstruct their faith and determine that it's foolishness, whether they believe it or not, doesn't change the reality that faith and truth exist for all time. We aren't to lean on our own understanding or on those other people. We're to lean on Christ and the Word of God. And he says in Proverbs 3:5 exactly that. Do not lean on our own understanding, but in all our ways acknowledge him, and he will direct our paths. So I encourage you right now, if your faith has been shaken, if you are reevaluating, if you have doubts, don't run to the world and the foolishness of what they think that changes like the wind, and what they believe 5 years ago, they don't believe this year, and that changes to next year. Please lean in to the ultimate truth of Christ and the Word of God, and I can assure you that he will direct your path. He will reveal himself, because it's about him and it's not about our feelings. It is about a foundational truth that can last forever, that doesn't change with the wind or the circumstances or society's norms. This was a little deeper subject this week, and I always appreciate you taking the time to hang out with me. I hope that you let me know in the comments if there are other topics that you'd like to discuss, and I look forward to seeing you next week.